Ladies and gentlemen, to tonight's stream of Wednesday Night Magic here from Nerd Rage Gaming. I'm your host, Andrew Donnelly. With me, a new co-host.
Yeah, buddy.
Level 2 now, Judge MaxCon. Max, welcome to the booth.
Well, thank you very much. I'm happy to be here, provide some insight about what's going on.
About some sweet modern action.
Oh, yeah.
I'm assuming there are 4 rounds. I usually just roll the dice and think that I'm correct.
There are 4 rounds tonight of modern action. In round 1, we've got here Kevin Williams on 5-color control against Justin Brickman on the original Abzan, John.
Interesting. Very interesting. Now, this is a deck that I believe Justin just switched recently as he was on Grixis control for a really long time. Any info on why he made the change?
I'm not sure exactly why he made the change. I believe it may involve him finally getting his playset of Tarmogoyfs.
That'll do something.
But Jund is a very popular deck in the modern metagame right now, and I'm excited to see what it is against Kevin Williams. Looks like a 5-color aggro deck.
It does look like a very interesting aggro deck, as this does not look like 5-color control, and in fact is most likely burn.
Yeah,
is what I'm probably going to believe. Kevin Williams, known to, kind of throw us for a loop here. So he's going to leave off with the Monastery Mentor. Going to hit Justin. Bring him down to 19. Switch the life totals there for correct.
Taking a second look at Kevin Williams' sideboard might actually give us some insights about what he's playing.
Not just the deck name.
His sideboard includes Searing Blood, Deflecting Palm, Lightning Helix, and Destructive Revelry.
Interesting.
All cards that deal damage to his opponent. So Control might not actually be the best label for this deck.
Justin going to fetch here. Find a swamp. Cast an Inquisition of Kozilek. Pretty good against this hand that Kevin Williams presents, as all these cards are below 3 CMC. We're looking at a Boros Charm, we're looking at a Tarkus Command, double Lightning Bolts, fetch.
Now it's really interesting the inclusion of a Tarkus Command in these decks. Of course, the burn decks normally only play 8 creatures, the 4 Goblin Guides and the 4 Swift Spears.
Sure.
So a Tarkus Command is generally a card better for token strategies.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see his inclusion in this deck.
Is that taking a is that making the 8th Skullcrack? Is that what their plan is? Like they want to have the additional Skullcracks, so they're including it. Whether or not they're going to hit the creatures with a pump effect, it's just for the bolt you don't gain. Yeah,
there might actually be 2 reasons. One of them, of course, Siege Rhino coming out in Kanzatark here,
Sure.
be adding more life gain effects to the modern metagame. And the second, of course, triggering prowess on Swift Spear. Being a 3/4 means you can get through a lot better threats in modern.
Interesting. That's pretty noticeable. I wonder if you'll see them adopt a aggressive token strategy in these burn decks, or if they're just going to stick with the way they've been going with just the 8 slotted creatures. Kevin Williams going to fetch here, find a Stomping Ground. Going to burn himself for 2, it would appear. He's going to keep something at the ready. I didn't see what he drew.
I didn't see either. I mean, what we know from that earlier Inquisition is his hand contains 2 Lightning Bolts, so I would not be surprised here to see a double bolt on Justin and attack for 3 with the Swift Spear.
Really? So he's going to dump everything this turn and just get Justin about as low as he can. And I think
he's just going with the Atarkus Command.
Huh. Interesting. So I'm going to assume he's going to shoot Justin for 3. Bring him down to 15. We'll see a prowess trigger, and then I'm assuming he's also giving the +1/+1, so it'll be another 3.
Yeah, we don't see him dropping a land, and there would be no reason to do the gain life here.
Interesting he decided to use the Atarkus commands.
Maybe it's because we know Justin has other threats that could require a bolt to be dealt with.
Sure.
Like a Tarmogoyf right now actually looks to be a 3/4, so it would not be that, but maybe Liliana of the Veil if he decides to tick down.
Yeah. Justin hosed here on land? God, look how much damage. This is the thing with the red deck, so he's taking so much damage, and it's just such a pain to be in this situation.
Yeah, Justin having to take 1 here and maybe 2 more to shock in a land to be able to cast the spells. Looks to be a Terminate, so he might be just searching up basic mountain.
He does have a Treetop Village in hand, which just seems awful against the burn decks. I mean, I guess it's a creature that he can animate and get in with, or potentially block with, but when all their spells do 3 directly to the dome, like, that man land is just not doing it.
Right. One of the advantageous reasons to play burn in this metagame is your opponent's generally doing 3 to 4 damage off of their own lands.
Sure.
So you automatically get a head start.
Oh yeah, I totally agree with that. It's always a call, so we'll see a fetch here from Kevin Williams.
Now, it'd be interesting to see, depending on what land he shocks for example, he could search for a Blood Crypt, and that might show that he's playing Bump in the Night or something like that.
Sure.
Or maybe he'll get a Sacred Foundry for the Boros Charm.
Yeah.
But it's really interesting to see what combinations of colors these burn decks play, because normally they're not just mono red.
Right. They usually include one other color, and I would think as soon as I saw the Stomping Ground and the Atarkus Command from the Inquisition, I'm probably putting him on just that card, and then potentially something else. Yeah, the Boros Charm is definitely interesting. So he's almost at three color burn list. And I guess there's something to say about that, them not having the options of Legacy Burn, where generally we're mono red. So here's your double ball play.
So that's going to be 6 damage from these bolts and 3 from the Swift Spear. That'll put Brickman down to 2. I'm not sure if there's much that he can do to get out of the situation, hold a Terminate, and Kevin Williams, the top of his deck, is very live in this situation.
Definitely. So there's the Raging Ravine card I love.
A Tassiger.
Interesting.
Well, that Swift Spear is never getting through that Tassiger, but again, Kevin can just draw any spell in his deck. That looks to be a full art Lightning Bolt.
It did look to be a bolt. Wow, slow rolling here.
No? Was that a Searing Blaze? The full art Searing Blaze?
Could be. Looked like a bolt to me, though, too.
Well, Kevin's just going to pass the turn.
Back. That's interesting.
Brickman drew a Colligan's Command for the turn. Seems pretty good on this board. Of course, Kevin could just trigger Prowess to save the Swift Sphere from that. But again, we believe Kevin has something in hand that he can cast right now.
I think so.
And there's not much that wouldn't just kill Justin here.
So he drew again.
Maybe it was a Goblin Guide?
Could have been. The mono red players always like to play it close to the chest, so it's always hard to see what's in their hand.
Kevin taking a look at his sideboard really quickly. I would assume no Glittering Wish or something like that.
Searing Blaze, so you were correct on the first input. It is Searing Blaze, so not enough to kill Justin unless we have a land drop here. I'm really surprised Justin decided to take the game away from Grixis Delver. Or just Grixis Control, if you will, in general. I thought that deck was really, really well positioned.
Well, Justin Brickman's always been known to be playing a lot of different decks. In Modern, he's played Blue-Red Delver, Grixis Delver, and in Standard, Blue-Red Thopters, Jeskai Tokens, Esper Dragons, a lot of different varieties. And we see it here in his 9th feature match. He's been here a lot, playing a lot of different things.
So there's the land in Searing Blaze. So this will be 3 to the Tasker, 3 to Justin. There's not much you can do about that, so it's just going to reset. Kevin Williams will take game 1. Interesting.
And that kind of shows the power of Burn, especially on the play
Yeah.
against these slower mid-range decks. There's not much that they can do.
How do you feel about Jund in the format right now? I don't know how much you've dipped into Modern recently or what you've seen at your locals, just the tournaments around here that you've judged, but is Jund primed to make a reappearance? Because I feel like it got pushed out pretty hard when Green Red Tron was like, oh look, Jund's back, I too will make an appearance.
That's very true. I mean, the Abzan decks do have Siege Rhino now, which is really important for them. Siege Rhino and Kitchen Finks to be able to fight these aggressive decks. And Burn is actually pretty popular in the metagame right now. I think according to MTG Goldfish, it's number 1 or 2 in most popular decks.
Oh, holy cow.
But I think that Jund, given the right tools, like it looks like Justin Brickman is siding in his Kitchen Finks here, they have the ability to fight Burn, but it's just easier for the Abzan decks to do it in general.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I like Abzan as a color, as I both played Collected Company myself and the Little Kid Abzan, minus the Goyf, so that we could also have a consistent matchup against Jund. It's really interesting that he decided to move around, because I feel like the cards that Justin enjoys are the cards he could still play in Grixis Delver, while also giving him access to counter magic and powerful cards like Snapcaster and V-Click, which seem odd to get away from in a format that allows you to play legacy staple cards. I mean, we're playing cards that are powerful in legacy, and even more so, I would think, in Modern, where people don't have, a lot of the access to the 1 mana removal. You know, Path to Exile's there, sure, but, you don't really have to get too concerned. It just seems odd to me.
But against the Burn matchup, those blue control cards really aren't at their best. Like Vendilion Click and Snapcaster Mage, those are just too slow against these Burn decks.
Right.
So you want to take a minute and look at the sideboards?
Yeah, why don't you run through Kevin's sideboard?
So Kevin's Burn sideboard is 2 Searing Blood, 3 Path to Exile for those larger creatures, 3 Deflecting Palm, 1 Pyroclasm, 2 Lightning Helix, and the 4 Destructive Revelry.
Interesting. Deflecting Palm's a good card. I like that card.
So, of course, here I'd expecting him to possibly bring in the Searing Blood. It's a really efficient way to deal with some of the smaller creatures that Justin has. The Path to Exile probably come in also against Tassiger and Tarmogoyf.
Yeah.
The Burn decks don't really have very efficient answers to those, so I'd expect the Path to Exile to come in. The Deflecting Palm might actually come in. Justin's deck likes to swing in very large hits, maybe with a 5/6 Tarmogoyf or 4/4 Raging Ravine. So Deflecting Palm's pretty efficient there. The Lightning Helix, kind of 50-50.
Yeah, that's a hit or miss card for me, too.
The Pyroclasm, I would assume not, and neither for the Destructive Revelry.
There's no targets. On Justin's sideboard, we've got 1 Jund Charm, 1 Knight of Souls Betrayal, 1 Duress, 1 Feed the Clans, 1 Golgori Charm, 1 Shatterstorm, 1 Slaughter Pact, 2 Anger of the Gods, 3 Kitchen Finks, and it looks like 3 Fulminator Mages. So I can assume we're going to see Feed the Clans here. We'll probably see the Kitchen Finks, like you said. I can't imagine he's going to deviate too much. Slaughter Pack seems loose.
Anger the Gods might come in, but when you're playing your own creatures that want to persist...
I don't know. That seems a little loose for me. I like the Feed the Clans. I like the Kitchen Finks. The Jun Charm may do something for us, but not a lot. The Duress is too weak. I don't... In all honesty, for a very toolboxy kind of deck, I do not like Justin's sideboard. I feel like we could have either gone more aggressive and played to our weaker matchups with our sideboard by just including more copies of things, or just played our own game. And if we are going to play one-ofs, let's play some spicy one-ofs that our opponent can't really play around.
That's true. We see here Kevin attacking with a Swift Spear on turn 1. One of the best plays you can do for this deck.
Yeah. Man, imagine if Burn in the upcoming Battle for Zendikar got a pseudo reprint of
Goblin Guide.
Well, I was going to say Price to Progress. Goblin Guide would also be nice if they just reprinted it. A Price to Progress effect that is playable in Modern, even if it costs 3, I think would be awesome. A lot of cards that I missed from my old days of Burn, and I wasn't a big Burn player back in Standard when I played a while ago, but like cards like Browbeat. Those are cards that I enjoy in Burn decks. I think they're not always the best, but they're definitely very fun to play.
Justin looks like he's tapping 2 mana here. It might be for a Tarmogoyf. I would assume he took out his Dark Confidants. I would assume Dark Confidant is no longer in the deck.
Because that's a Ghost Quarters.
That is a Ghost Quarters.
I would assume you would take out Dark Confidant too, as I probably don't want to kill myself.
It looks like he has a Goyf pulled to the front of his hand, though.
I don't know if I want to cast that.
The other option is a Scavenging Ooze,
which I think is a solid card. In a card, if not in the main, would sure as hell better be in your sideboard. The card's amazing in Modern.
And Justin decides to go with the 1/2 Tarmogoyf.
I don't like that.
A Searing Blaze from Kevin here
is really
great strong way to clear the path.
Yeah. Is this a play where we're trying to eat a burn spell that then can't be directed to the Liliana of the Veil in hand? Is that the idea?
It's possible, but again, Kevin has these 2-for-1s.
I would rather play my Liliana, have my Liliana get zapped, and then become aggressive with a much larger Tarmogoyf.
Well, it looks like Kevin's hand right now is an Eidolon of the Great Revel, a Goblin Guide, looks to be a...
Oh, we forgot about Eidolon.
2 Eidolons in the hand, actually. He's suspending a Rift Bolt.
I don't know.
Of course, if Justin just plays a Liliana of the Veil here, that would kill the Swift Spear, make Goyf into a 2/3.
Yeah, there's a lot he can do. He's got
and then that Rift Bolt would not kill the Goyf anymore, because state-based actions will be checked. The Goyf will be a 3/4 by the time the Rift Bolt already happens.
Far be it from me to understand what Burn players are going to do, but man, it's weird. So, is he going to tick down here? Yeah, he is. So he's going to present 2 targets.
But the problem with that Kevin's experiencing with this 2/3 Goyf here is that Rift Bolt will not kill that Goyf, and I'm not sure if he's aware of that.
See, that's a big thing. That's judging in the booth, baby.
Yeah.
That's the tech right there. Also, God, if you're not just going to direct it at either your opponent's face or their Planeswalker, you've forgone the chance to kill the Goyf if you had a removal spell for it for when it was a 1/2 and you chose not to remove it.
And if I'm Justin right here and I just finished my turn 3 and I'm still at 18 life against the Burn deck, I feel very confident.
I totally agree.
Taking a look at the deck matchup history here at Nerd Rage Gaming, we've had Jund in the feature match twice. Both of them were at our SCG States event in Indianapolis in April.
Sure.
And it looks like it's a 50-50 for the Jund matchups in the feature match area. For Burn, again, 50-50. We've had it at a bunch of Star City Games IQs here in store and at the Wednesday Night Modern events. 8 matches played, 4 wins and 4 losses.
Interesting. And you could see, checking at your list over there, if I'm looking at the Burn decks, I believe correctly, you see Jake Pasquit's name pop up a bunch. Huge mono red player here at the shop. I mean, known for playing red all the time. And it looks like his record is fairly good with the deck, and that's to be expected. I mean, the guy plays Burn like no other. So. And
another player on our list here, Silas Walter, he won our July monthly 1K with the Burn deck, and that looked pretty good on camera when he was playing it.
So what did we direct the Lightning Bolt at?
It looks to be Justin's face, which is an interesting aggressive play, and it was followed up by an Eidolon of the Great Revel, the Journey into Nyxrare.
Adjusted life totals, so I'm not 100% sure if it went there or not. There's a Culligan's command.
It could be because Kevin aimed it at the Goyf, and then Justin informed him that that's not how that works.
I actually think that's what happened. That's brutal. So Culligan's command. This is a standout.
Looks like a shock discard. Yeah. Which is exactly what Justin wants to be doing here, getting his threats off the table and out of his hand.
Yeah. I'm sure he's happy with the 2 damage he took from...
and with the enchantment hitting the graveyard, Eidolon of the Great Revel, that'll pump the Goyf to a 4/5. Creature, land, instant sorcery,
creature, land,
Enchantment,
instant,
5/6.
enchantment. Yeah, 5/6. Oh man, this thing's out of Kevin's range by a lot.
He did, I assume, bring in the Path of Exiles.
I would think so.
So that'd be one way to deal with the Tarmogoyf. But even if he deals with the Tarmogoyf, there's an active Liliana of the Veil on the table.
Yeah, which is currently eating his hand.
And it doesn't look like Kevin has any burn spells in hand. It looks like to be an Eidolon of the Great Revel and another creature.
Oh man. Wow, so did he keep a hand that was heavy on Eidolons? Doesn't seem good against the Jund deck. I mean, they do play a curve. There's a curve to the Jund deck. A lot of their removal and disruption is 3 or below. But man, do we know? We don't ask for deck lists here, obviously, for the main deck list, but I'd like to know if Justin is playing Huntsmaster of the Fells.
I actually had a conversation with him. I had to trade for one for my cube right before the event. He said he was trying out in the Jund deck, but he did not end up playing them today.
Terrible idea. The card is phenomenal right now in the format.
I think it's stronger than Liliana or than Olivia Voldaren, which a lot of the decks are playing.
I agree. I think there are matchups where Olivia, once again, should be super present in your sideboard, but the Huntsmaster of the Fells, as we know from any previous Jund deck where that card took place, once you stabilize and are able to land that card, the threat it presents to your opponent, not only by just flipping and doing its actions, but by you being able to control how it flips. That's the biggest. I mean, the deck is just the card is so good.
And again, Huntmaster of the Fells, the flip card from Dark Ascension, arguably the best card in that block constructed format, has seen some modern play in these Jund decks.
Oh, and it should. There's no reason. The card is nuts. Probably one of my. I told a crowd here at Nerd Rage one time it was arguably my favorite red card.
Wow.
Or not red card. I'm sorry, green card, as I'm known for not casting a lot of green spells, but I think the card is fantastic.
Justin attacking with that 5/6 Tarmogoyf as Kevin discards a Boros Charm. Looks to be he has a Skullcrack and a Boros Charm in his hand, but with Justin playing a Scavenging Ooze, this game looks out of reach for Kevin Williams. He's going to Boros Charm directly to Justin's face, not even going after Liliana. This is probably the final draw from Kevin. It's a second Boros Charm, and I can assume Kevin's going to scoop it up, and he does.
Good on Justin for having the scoos there. That card is just a house.
And again, I think it is Kevin's misplay there of targeting the Rift Bolt against the Tarmogoyf there.
Also, is Rift Bolt just too slow? It is a 3 damage spell that we have to wait 1 for, but you're right. I guess that was probably a misplay. I think if he knows he's got the 3 damage online, we either target the Liliana or just target Justin's
And again, that interaction is not intuitive at all.
Yeah,
you really have to go into the rules to figure out how those state-based actions interact with damage and Tarmogoyf, and Kevin paid the price for that game.
God, Tarmogoyf. Ugh, just get out of here, green creature. Ugh, yeah.
Yeah, 2 mana, 4/5.
Yeah, it seems.
Print it.
Seems okay. So, as these players re-sideboard, you've been judging some events lately. What have you seen? What have you come across? What's your favorite format to judge currently?
I love judging Modern. I think the interactions are to a point that it's easy for the players to understand. There's no Chains of Mephistopheles effect like that. But I think it's complex enough that there's interesting scenarios and board states that do come up.
Yeah.
And it's interesting and fun to explain those to the players.
Cool. We actually, I just bought a Chains, the old Chains deck I brought up today to my coworkers. That's an old legacy type 1 style deck. That card's actually $400 now.
Jeez, all those old Legends cards.
They are very
What's the price on Caracas now? That's $150 with the Judge promo printing.
Yep. The Abyss is back up to being close to around like $250, something like that. So all those cards are getting wild. Have you had a chance to judge Legacy yet?
I actually got to judge. I had the opportunity to judge a Legacy side event at the Star City Games event.
Awesome.
And all of the players made fun of me
because
they said that their cards were older than I was. And they're true. There's nothing wrong with that.
No, not at all. But
they couldn't accept any of my rulings because the copyright date on the card is before my birth date.
That is a blast. Oh man, that's pretty funny.
So
those are from the last I played in the St. Louis Open last year, and it was a Legacy Open, and it was such a relaxed event. It was my first competitive Magic tournament in probably like 2 years, so I had to shake a lot of the rust off. Managed to cash, had a bunch of fun playing Miracles, and it was probably the most relaxed event of Magic I think I've ever played in a while. You know what I mean? There were no rack nerves or anything going in. I just went in to play some Legacy, and it was a great event.
So it looks like Justin's on a mulligan to 6 here, as Kevin kept his opening 7. While we were sideboarding, I did notice Kevin did not have the Path to Exiles in Game 2, but did definitely bring them in for Game 3.
Yeah, he learned his mistake after that.
Taking a look at Kevin's hand, it looks like that's a full art Searing Blaze. We've got a Wooded Foothills, a basic Mountain, a Boros Charm, 2 Goblin Guides, and 1 Unknown.
So it's a pretty aggressive start.
Justin heading down to 5 cards, not finding anything that he likes.
Good.
What do you think is the essential 5 cards? The perfect 5-card hand that Justin could have here.
Blackcleave Cliffs, Verdant Catacombs. Blackcleave Cliffs, Verdant Catacombs. Ghost Quarter? No.
Probably a Kitchen Finks in there somewhere.
I was about to say Skoos. Either it'd probably be Blackcleave Cliffs, Verdant Catacombs, a removal spell, a hand disruption bell, and a Skoos.
Well, this is an interesting one. We see Terminate, Lightning Bolt, Swamp, Treetop Village, and 1 unknown.
Okay.
So he doesn't have the red mana
He's
for
stuck
his
with a lot of
Terminate.
heavy removal hands. Okay, too.
And Kevin's just bolting himself immediately from the get-go. We're assuming he's playing one of the 2 Goblin Guides he's got in his hand. Get the pressure on early. Now, it's really important. If this Goblin Guide hits an untapped red source for Justin, Justin might be back in this game.
Yeah, it's definitely dangerous. I think I would rather have Skoos over Finks, if that makes any type of weird sense.
That does make sense.
Because it's not as mana-intensive, we can get it in. Oh, was that Tasigur?
Might have been a Scavenging Ooze, actually. I'm not sure.
That could be.
But it's definitely not the land that Justin needs. It looks actually to be a Scavenging Ooze.
So we have a Treetop, too.
What is that last card? It looks like that might actually be a Kitchen Finks in Justin's hand.
Okay.
He does need the double green for it, though.
Right. The problem with that in R5, like you said, sure, it's a great card to play because you gain the 4 life temporarily, but it's so mana intensive on us when we're already down to 5 cards. I would rather have the green 1 to be able to cast.
Sure. It looks like Justin reveals another spell on top of his library, maybe a Terminate that time. And Kevin decides to... Looks like he's just going to pass the turn.
Huh. Interesting. Not becoming aggressive when you're the
We do know he has a Boros Charm in his hand, though, so he could just be holding that up for the end step.
Okay, so it is Skoos. You were right on the draw. And this is a strong card. If there's no removal, this will be 4?
Yeah, it looks to be 4 damage to Justin's face. I assume he's not making his Goblin Guide indestructible or giving it double strike in this situation.
Though double strike, actually, had we played that other one, that could have been a nifty combat trick.
Kevin drews one of the Path to Exiles he just sideboarded in. I don't know if he's going to use it here. He might actually be fine trading away the Scavenging Ooze for his Goblin Guide. He's got enough gas in his hand. He does not have the land for the landfall for this series.
I was about to say, if he had that I think is my opportune play. I landfall Searing Blaze your guy, play my second Goblin Guide for you.
And that Goblin Guide hits a Tasigur. Wow, Justin not liking it this game, but he does decide to trade off his Scavenging Ooze for Kevin's Goblin Guide, and Kevin suspends 2 Rift Bolts.
I don't know how I feel about that. Oh, burn. This will dome you for 6, down to 6.
And Kevin might just have the game this turn if he's got 2 1-mana 3 damage spells.
Sure.
Lava Spike, Lightning Bolt. Does not look like he has it. He's got a Skullcrack, a Path to Exile, a Searing Blaze, and a Grim Lavamancer in his hand.
Grimmy. Interesting. So Kevin actually, giving him credit for playing a ton of green cards. So he's going to say, no, you drew your card. So what? Okay, yeah, spike you. Down to 3. Why don't we Goblin Guide here? Okay, we're going to instead Grim Lavamancer, so we still leave ourselves open to the Terminate that Justin has, but Justin's dead next turn to the Skullcrack you saw, so... you're going to pay 1. Going to bolt.
So maybe Justin's planning on fetching this Verdant Catacombs for basic forest down to 2 and playing Kitchen Finks to 4.
Yeah.
And we're hoping that Kevin doesn't have the Boros Charm. Just kill us.
Are we sure that was the second guide? We keep talking about it.
Maybe it was the Grim Lavamancer.
Is that what we saw? It's possible. As Twitch chat chimes in tonight. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We're currently in Game 3 here of Round 1. We've got Jun versus Burn. We'll see the Path to Exile here. So Justin will gain 2 life, go up to 4.
And of course, Kevin playing that Path to Exile. This game won't go long enough that there's something else he might want to do. Justin does have the opportunity to play the Tasigur now. But Kevin looks like he has enough burn in his hand, and especially with that fetch land being able to trigger landfall at the end step, this might just be the game here.
Now, does he needs a creature to target with Searing Blaze, correct, though?
Right, and we're assuming Justin's playing the Tasigur.
He's going to play the Tasigur? Okay, sure. Interesting.
Raging Ravine?
Man, snap it off right here. He very well could just snap it off and get punished for it, I guess, right? Is the problem.
But the problem is, Kevin still has the Skullcrack putting Justin to 1. Right. The top of his deck, any card is the game, regardless. So I think Justin is forced to play this Tasigur here because he dodges all the creatures that Kevin could draw from the top of his deck.
So interesting.
Skullcrack putting Justin down to 1. And he drew a Goblin Guide, but I think we have the Searing Blaze in hand. That will just end the game.
I thought he was about to cast it, not fetch first. That's interesting.
Now, Justin, of course, with Searing Blaze does have 2 separate targets, one targeting Justin, one targeting the Tasigur, so even if the Tasigur dies, the Searing Blaze will still resolve, and I think that's what they're asking the judge now.
Yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong, but even if he terminates it here, right,
correct, the 3 damage going to Justin will still go through.
All these newfangled cards. No, I'm joking, I play with Searing Blaze.
It looks like they're looking up the ruling on their phone. Instead, they could just be texting me, but
as you're back here in the booth. See, so this is what I mean. So here is the conundrum. We have one of our best judges at these events back in the booth with me, which has been great so far, Max. But now we've got people looking up their phones. How many game rules violations does those people just get?
Well, at regular Oriel, there aren't any. It looks like Justin did read the Oracle, and that will show that there are 2 targets to Searing Blaze.
Did they errata that on the card to show the separate targeting, or is it still just one paragraph?
It is one paragraph, but it does use the word target twice.
Interesting. Very interesting. So Kevin Williams and Byrne going to pick it up 2-1 over Justin Brickman and Jund. Guys, that was Google equals level 9 judge. There you go. See? So.
Well, it does look to be Kevin Williams' first feature match here at NRG Gaming, and he did start things off the right way with a win in the feature match area.
I would say so. I'm just going to have to give him a slap on the wrist for not putting his deck name down correctly. I think that's my biggest thing. That's
5-color control. He got us.
He totally got us. So, guys, that was the end of round 1. We'll be moving into round 2 very shortly. Please stay tuned. We've got a level 2 judge, Max Kahn, in the booth with me this evening as a co-commentator for Wednesday Night Modern. It's going to be a blast sticking around. We have a bunch of good players tonight and a lot of good decks, so can't imagine it's going to be anything but the best Magic this evening. We've got about 23 minutes left in the round, so I'll throw up the Be Right Back, and we will see you shortly. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to coverage of